Redirect $500 a month away from your 401k at age 57, toward a car payment, a renovation, anything. And if your account already sits above $250,000, that single shift quietly costs you $83,000 by retirement. Not a market crash, not a bad investment, because you stepped away from the compounding at the exact stage when it does the most work. Most people think the real compounding explosion happens at $1 million. It does not. The number where the math actually flips is closer to $170,000. You may have crossed it years ago without a single announcement. And the moves that feel routine at exactly that moment, the contribution cut, the early withdrawal, the pause while the market is rough, do not cost them one decision's worth of money. They cost them every dollar those decisions would have grown into for the rest of their retirement. There is a specific threshold in every saver's life called the crossover point. It is the year when your portfolio's annual investment returns overtake your own contributions for the first time. Before that line, you drive the growth. After it, time drives it for you. And once you cross it, what your decisions cost changes completely. Here is the exact formula. Divide your annual contribution by your expected return rate. At $12,000 a year and 7%, that threshold falls at $171,000. If your current balance clears that number, investment returns are now your biggest engine, not new contributions. And that changes what every decision you make with that account actually costs. Quick ask before part 1. If this kind of retirement breakdown is useful to you, hit like and subscribe now so the next one reaches you automatically. Part 1. The number that actually matters. Take two people in their mid-50s. Carol is 56. She has $380,000 in her 401k and contributes $1,500 a month. She thinks she has not hit the real inflection point yet. That is the $1 million mark, right? James is 53. He has $215,000 saved, and a rough market year knocked his balance back. He is wondering whether to pause contributions and wait for things to settle. Both of them are making decisions based on a threshold that does not exist. Both of them have already crossed the crossover, and neither one knows it. The crossover is not complicated. Every year, your portfolio earns a return on its existing balance. Every year, you add contributions on top. The crossover is the exact year those two numbers swap positions, the moment your annual investment gain becomes larger than the dollars you deposit. Here is the math. If you contribute $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, and your long-run average annual return is 7%, the crossover happens when your balance reaches roughly $171,000. That is the point where 7% of the balance equals $12,000 in annual gains. Below that line, contributions carry the load. Above it, time carries it. That is not $1 million. It is not $500,000. At $12,000 a year and 7%, it is $171,000. If you contribute $2,000 a month instead, the line sits closer to $343,000. The threshold moves with your contribution rate and your expected return. Higher contributions push it further out. A stronger return pulls it closer in. But for most Americans who have been saving through a 401k since their 30s or 40s, it falls far below anything the personal finance world has told you to celebrate. Consider how common this threshold really is. The Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances puts median household net worth for Americans approaching retirement at roughly $364,000, a figure that includes home equity and other assets, not just invested retirement savings. But for anyone who has been contributing to a 401k or IRA for 2 or more decades, a meaningful share of that total is likely invested. Many consistent savers in their 50s have already cleared their crossover, often years ago, with no announcement. Now add the rule of 72. At 7%, money doubles approximately every 10.3 years. A $300,000 balance today, with nothing new added from here, reaches roughly $600,000 in your mid-60s and roughly $1.2 million in your mid-70s. Not because you kept saving, because you stayed out of the way. Each doubling is larger in raw dollars than the one before it. The last decade of a long accumulation window produces more growth in dollar terms than the first 2 decades combined. That is what the crossover actually means. Your contributions built the runway. The balance is now airborne. Carol does not need the $1 million mark. James does not need a stable market to resume contributions. He needs to stop pausing them entirely. Part 2. What shifts on the other side? Before the crossover, savings rate is the dominant variable. Every additional dollar of contribution moves the needle. After the crossover, time in the market is the dominant variable. An extra $200 a month is nearly irrelevant compared to what happens when a $400,000 balance doubles once and then doubles again. Here is what that looks like over a real timeline. A 55-year-old with $400,000 saved who does not add another single dollar still reaches roughly $800,000 by 65 and roughly $1.6 million by 75, assuming 7% average annual growth. 2 doublings in 20 years. The first doubling required decades of disciplined contributions to build the base. The second doubling requires nothing but patience and a hands-off approach. Each subsequent doubling is larger in absolute dollars than all the saving that preceded it. This is the stage where time has more earning power than income. Carol's $380,000 does not need her to save harder. It needs her to stay out of the way. James's $215,000, even after a rough year, is already in this zone. Inside a 401k or traditional IRA, that compounding happens without annual tax drag. The IRS does not reach into the account each year and claim its share of the gains. The full balance stays and compounds on itself. In a taxable brokerage account, dividends, interest, and any gains you realize are taxed each year, trimming the base that compounds going forward. Inside a tax-deferred account, you compound on the full amount every year. That difference may not look dramatic in any single year. Over 15 or 20 years, it represents a gap that can reach 6 figures on a mid-size portfolio. There is also something worth naming here about how traditional accounts actually work. The government functions as a silent limited partner in every traditional 401k and IRA. It owns a share equal to your future tax rate. At a 25% bracket, roughly $1 in 4 inside your account belongs to the IRS at withdrawal. That is not fully your money to count, but during accumulation, that government share compounds right alongside yours at no cost to you. The IRS is not charging you rent to hold its portion. You're effectively using deferred government money to compound your own returns. The trade is simple. Leave the machine alone, and the government's cut stays dormant and grows quietly. Touch it early, and you trigger the partner at the worst possible time. Part 3. The 3 moves that break it. Move 1. Stopping contributions when the market falls. A 10 or 15% correction feels like confirmation that something is wrong. It is not. It is a sale. Every share you buy when prices are down 20% will compound from that lower entry price through the full recovery. The investors who paused contributions during the 2008 and 2009 downturn missed the beginning of a decade-long run that followed. Stopping contributions at a market low does 2 damaging things at the same time. It pulls future dollars out of the machine when those dollars would have bought the most, and it removes them from a compounding position you can never get back, because the one variable you cannot repurchase is time. Move 2. The early withdrawal. Taking money out of a traditional pre-tax retirement account before age 59 and a half generally triggers a 10% federal penalty on top of ordinary income tax on the full amount withdrawn. But the real cost is not the penalty. It is the future doublings you forfeit. A $30,000 withdrawal at 52 does not cost $30,000. At 7%, that balance doubles approximately every 10 years. Between age 52 and age 72, that $30,000 would have doubled roughly twice. The real cost, in future dollars, is closer to $120,000. And that is before subtracting the penalty and income tax that reduce the actual take-home amount further. You give up $120,000 in future value to bring home something closer to $20,000 after the government takes its cut. That is not a tough trade. That is a catastrophic one. Move 3. The contribution pause that quietly becomes permanent. A raise comes. A renovation starts. A car payment increases. The contribution rate drops 2 or 3% with every intention of restoring it next quarter. Next quarter becomes next year. There is no penalty letter for this. No visible damage. No bill in the mail. Just a silent reduction in the contribution stream at its most productive stage. Here is what that silence actually costs. A $500 a month reduction at age 57, redirected to a recurring expense, removes $6,000 a year from the compounding base. Over the 10 years between 57 and retirement at 67, that shortfall, compounded at 7%, represents roughly $83,000 in foregone balance. Not because the expense was unreasonable, because the machine was already in its most powerful decade and those dollars were removed from it at exactly the wrong time. Part 4. The action that keeps it running. The answer is not complicated. It is not exciting. It is automate the maximum and do not touch it. In 2026, the rules work heavily in favor of anyone in their 50s or 60s. If you are between 50 and 59 or 64 and older, you can put $32,500 into a 401k this year. The standard $24,500 limit plus an $8,000 catch-up contribution. If you are between 60 and 63, Congress created a specific window under Secure 2.0 called the Super Catch-up. Your 401k limit rises to $35,750 for those 4 years. Add an IRA on top, $7,500 plus a $1,100 catch-up for anyone 50 and older. The total contribution capacity for a 50-plus household is substantial, and this is the exact stage when using it matters most. If hitting those full numbers is out of reach right now, there is one thing that is not optional. Capture every dollar of your employer match before anything else. The match is an immediate return on the contributed dollar that no investment can predictably replicate. Leaving it on the table is refusing a portion of your own compensation. There is no strategy that makes that trade worthwhile. But here is the highest leverage move available to anyone past the crossover. Automation. Compounding's worst enemy is not a volatile market. It is a human decision point. Every time a contribution requires a conscious, manual choice, the door opens for fear, for a competing expense, or for a purchase that seemed urgent in the moment. Payroll deduction removes that door entirely. You cannot panic redirect money that never touches your bank account. You cannot quietly pause a decision that does not require you to decide. The automation is the strategy. Everything else is noise. Here is the reframe that matters. If you are in your 50s and your account holds $200,000 or more, your job has already changed. Before the crossover, the question was, how much can I add? After it, the question is, how long can I stay out of the way? That shift, from driver to protector, is not a minor recalibration. It is the entire job now. 3 things the protector does. Keeps contributions running at the highest sustainable rate, automates them so no human decision can interrupt them, and stays invested through the years that feel the worst to do so. Because those years are often when the machine earns the most. That is the crossover, not $1 million. For most consistent savers in their 50s, the line where compounding overtakes contributions falls somewhere below $200,000. And many consistent savers who have been putting money away for 20-plus years have already crossed it quietly, without celebration, without anyone telling them the rules just changed. Before you close this, here is your final assignment. Pull up your current retirement account balance, multiply it by 0.07. If that result is larger than what you contribute in a year, you're past your crossover. Write it down. That is the portfolio you're protecting. This is not financial advice. Every account, every tax bracket, and every timeline is different. If you think you have crossed your crossover, sit down with a qualified fiduciary who can show you the actual numbers for your specific situation. If this gave you a number worth finding, hit like so it reaches someone else who needs to see it. Subscribe to The CFO Next Door for more retirement math every week. And in the comments, type the word crossover if you have already passed yours. I read every single one. See you next time.